In this video, I'm going to explain exactly how you should adjust your food each week so you don't hit a fat loss plateau. This is the exact process that I use with hundreds of my clients across the world, predictably getting them to a leaner body fat percentage using something called metabolic priming. So my name's Adam Bunnell. I'm an online fat loss professional, and I specialize in hormonal priming, body recomposition, high-level forms of nutrition through metabolism manipulation called metabolic priming. If you want to learn a little bit more about metabolic priming in general, make sure to go check out my page. There'll be a big pin video explaining what metabolic priming is and how we use it with our clients across the world. And so make sure to subscribe, watch that video. But the purpose of today's video is to explain exactly how you should adjust these weekly so you don't hit another plateau, right? And so like I said, this is the exact process I use with each and every single one of my clients. And the thing is this is an actual system that we use within the program, right? An exact blueprint, step by step, that you need so we know exactly which direction to go and when, right? So I'm gonna explain this in full, in detail. I'm gonna explain where people go wrong. I'm gonna explain a little bit about, rules to remember, and then I'm actually gonna put this in actual tactical information and show you week by week what this exactly looks like. So make sure to stay around and stick around till the end, because I'm going to explain exactly how you should adjust these weekly and show you the weekly adjustments, right? And so I have over 40 client testimonials and case studies on my actual page, which actually puts this information into practical use using actual side-by-sides with my clients. So you're more than happy to go check some of those out. But the purpose of this video is just to give you a little bit more help on your fitness journey, a little bit more clarity. And I think the biggest thing that I see in today's society as well is that people don't understand how to track their macronutrients or how to adjust their macronutrients. And so, first of all, if you don't know what your macronutrients should be, this is the second part of a 3-series video. So the video we did before was exactly how to get your starting macronutrients. So there'll be a video that you can go watch with how to find your starting macronutrients. So go watch that video so you can kind of get caught up. But today's video, the purpose is to show you how to exactly adjust these, right? And the thing is that people don't really teach this, right? People don't really teach how to adjust your macronutrients, because if you're somebody who has lost 20, 30, 40 pounds and you've hit a plateau and you're eating the same amount of food that you did when you started, obviously there's need to be some sort of adjustments, right? Even those online apps you guys use, those personal trainers that send you a PDF profile and maybe change things once a month, that's just all very relative. You need to be making adjustments very quickly and in every single week to keep your body progressing and to guide your body on the correct path. That's why each and every single week we have our clients check in with their photos, with their weight, if they're in progressing in the gym, overall energy as well, because those are the adjustments that need to be made, right? You need to be tracking KPI data and metrics of your exact body, and so you can make educated decisions each week, right? So some rules to remember before we do get started is track your photos and weight, right? So I would relatively say everybody watching this right now, and most of the guys who come to me in our program, that you guys don't have a weight loss problem. You have a fat loss problem. You guys want to get lean. You want to lose body fat. So they actually did a scientific study on this that said it's more detrimental to lose muscle tissue than it is to lose body fat, right? And I think a lot of guys who try these fad diets and, go in super caloric deficits, which a lot of guys who come to us do, one, they, get really low in calories, but they lose a lot of muscle tissue in the process, which gets you caught in that skinny fat phase and kind of plateaus you out, because as your muscle tissue starts to degrade, so does your metabolism, your testosterone, your energy. So you don't have a weight loss problem. You just have a fat loss problem, right? So we track body composition. And with each and every single one of our clients around the world, this is the exact process we do. We track their body compositions. So next is only make adjustments weekly. So a lot of things that I see as well is that people make quick adjustments multiple times during a week, and you can never really see the actual true effect of a week's worth of progress if you're making various adjustments through the week. It needs a certain set of consistency, and so you can see the progress. And a lot of people, one, will change their stuff up, multiple times a week, and you never really actually see the benefits of it, right? So only make your adjustments weekly, and then make sure you weight train, right? So the importance of weight training in this as well, and we actually provide custom workout programs for each one of every one of our clients, from at-home gym workouts to on the road workouts. If you travel for work, or we have a pilot who flies, and we have to make him custom plans every day, every other week. But the importance of weight training in general is that you want to maintain muscle tissue. You want to actually grow muscle tissue. Why? Because muscle tissue is highly metabolic. Your metabolism will quite literally raise having more muscle tissue. So you want to have some certain set of weight training. We have clients on 3 days all the way to 5 days. Doesn't matter. You need to be actually weight training so that you can start to lose body fat and build muscle, because the more muscle tissue you have, the less body fat it will actually appear that you have. The body fat displaces differently, and you look leaner having more muscle tissue, right? So that's a big thing as well, is that one, people only track weight, they don't really track fat loss, and they make adjustments too quickly, and they will lose a bunch of weight, 15 pounds of muscle, 15 pounds of fat, and like you just look the same, but like honestly just a little bit worse. So things to remember. So if you did watch the last video, we pinpointed where your exact macronutrients should be. So with that formula that we use, you start your protein off at 0.8 to 1.2. If you start off at the 1 gram per body weight, you can raise it up to like 1.2. Protein does have a higher thermic effect, which will lead to more fat loss, similar to over-the-counter fat burner. But the cap with that would be about probably 250. There's a diminishing return with protein that you don't really need to go over 250. And a lot of people think that more protein, more muscle tissue. That's not true. Carbohydrates actually support transitioning and transporting actual protein into the muscle at a faster rate. So you can actually have more benefit eating more carbohydrates, but keeping your protein actually a little bit lower. So mainly focused on bringing carbs up. So why do we mainly focus on bringing carbs up instead of start to go down, right? So this comes into like a little bit of effect of what we call the metabolic priming phase, which I do with each one of my clients. And what the metabolic priming phase is in just a quick, lamer terms, like I said, go check out that video on my YouTube channel and pinned to my profile if you want to learn a little bit more about what it is. But that kind of higher level overview is basically what you do is you focus on building muscle and losing body fat, and you build the structure, right? You build the base, right? By raising carbohydrates, getting your metabolism up, right? So priming your metabolism. So mainly focus on bringing carbs up within the metabolic priming phase, right? Fats can slightly go up last, but you want to make sure to keep fats low and really nail those fat intakes within actually 1 to 3 gram range, because that will definitely help with making more progress. Because if you think about what fat is, it does have a 3% thermic effect, which is not very much. That means that the body doesn't really burn much fats when you digest it. It's very slow digestion. It has a 9 calorie per gram opposed to carbs and protein, right? So those are things to remember. So start getting the starting macronutrients, and this is kind of the starting macronutrients that we actually used in last video. So like I said, go check out that video. I'll actually link it below for you guys so you make it a little bit quicker. But this is our starting macronutrients that we found in the last video based upon 200-pound, male. And the thing is that it does vary quite greatly depending on a client per client basis. It's very personalized per client, but to give you the overall structure and kind of how you should adjust this is kind of what we do. Obviously, a lot does change when you're actually watching somebody's body composition, watching how somebody's body responds, and making adjustments weekly. But this will be a very, at least vague understanding of how to adjust your macronutrients. So this will help you make progress, right? So, a lot of the guys who do come to us, and we do work with men, quite literally around the world. And a lot of them are like, CEOs, managers, business owners, executives. And, they tried to lose body fat in the past and kind of got into low amounts of calories, right? And if you listen to this right now, and that's you, I would say majority of the people, 85, 90% of the people that actually come to us were in that exact position. What's happened is that, one, when you get lower on calories, your body starts to adapt and it starts to slow your metabolism, right? So that's the purpose of, one, hoping to bring these up week by week and bring these up very strategically, and so we can get them higher and we can actually raise your metabolism. And I know a lot of you probably watching this right now and you're like, well, how does that even work? Like, how am I going to lose body fat and build muscle tissue eating more food? Well, here's some of our clients who recently went through the program within the last couple months. Excited to have reached the 3,000, especially getting leaner. Seriously can't believe how effective this program has been. The crazy thing is I'm continuing to lose weight despite eating more and doing less, 20 pounds in 20 days, and crazy, literally eating more food and still losing body fat, right? So like I said, this process is like a very research subject, and I specialize in it, right? Using this exact formula and blueprint that we use with each one of our clients. So now that I've kind of broke your self-limiting belief that you actually can raise your food and lose body fat, let's talk about really on the tactical side of things, like how exactly that we should do this, right? So if your starting macronutrients are, let's say, at 200 grams of protein, 165 carb, and 60 fat, the first thing we need to do is, like I said, check in with your photos and your weight, right? So the photos are most important. The muscle tissue that you're gaining is more important, and the energy that is being increased each week within your cognitive ability, thinking ability is more important. But yes, weight on the scale does play a specific role. So week one, when you check in after going through your starting macronutrients, check your photos and check your weight. The first thing you want to do is your weight going down? Because if your weight is going down, that's a good thing. It's not like the end of the world if it's not. But what we do with our clients is when they check in through the week, we take 7 days of weigh-ins, and if 4 of them are below the last date that they checked in, then we raise the carbohydrates slightly. So what we're trying to do here is transition the body into something what's called carbohydrate metabolism, which is transitioning the body into primarily used carbohydrates. So a lot of today's society, and even with like majority of the guys who come in our program, are overeat on fats, and their carbohydrates are just kind of like up and down, no real actual structure, right? So when you're eating a lot of fats, first of all, the body wants to store body fat. It doesn't want to store carbohydrates, right? It wants to burn carbohydrates. It's the main fuel source. And so if the body wants to burn carbohydrates, but preferably actually stores fat in the form of fat intake, if we lower the fat intake and nail it to specifically what you need in the form of fat, we can transition the body into using more carbohydrates, which is called carbohydrate metabolism, right? So let's say you check in with your photos and your body composition is changing. Maybe you see a slight decrease in your stomach size. Maybe you see a slight new striation in one of your triceps. Then you just give yourself 25 more grams of carbohydrates, right? So the two things that you check for is body composition and is your weight going down, right? And so not all the time your weight will go down. Sometimes even with our clients' plans, they'll go, a couple weeks on end without really changing in weight, but their body composition starts to really just shift, right? Because you're losing body fat and building muscle tissue. And if you lose 1 pound of body fat and you gain 1 pound of muscle tissue, you look like you have a 2 pound difference, and so on and so on. So the first thing is you always check with your body composition, see is your body composition improving. And if maybe you can't really tell if you can see any significant changes within your body composition, the next thing you do is you do check your weight, right? If your weight is lower 4 out of those 7 days, raise the food slightly. Next week comes in, check in with photos and weight. Same concept applies, right? Check your photos, check your weight. Weight's 4 days lower than the previous week. Body composition is maybe changing a little bit. If one of those does check the box, then go ahead and raise the food slightly. So eventually, too, you will be raising your protein ever so slightly, right? You will be raising a little bit of protein ever so slightly. If you started at 1 gram per body weight, you can get up to 1.2. So the biggest thing that I see and the most thing that I do with my clients, and like I said, complete transparency, this is very client particular. What exactly we do each week based upon how their body composition looks. Obviously, we've been doing this for a while, so I know we know what to look for in the form of body composition, what your body actually needs. But this process will help you make progress, right? And so around week 3, week 4, I would say, just relatively trying to put a time frame on it, you can raise that protein up to at least 1.2 grams per body weight, right? Which, you get that protein up to 225, and you don't raise too much carbohydrates. Fats stay the same. Week 4, you check in. 225 grams of protein. Check photos and weight. Photos are progressing. You're getting leaner. Weight's down for those days. You give yourself 25 more grams of carbohydrates. Week 5, repeat. If you hit that 1.2 grams of protein per body weight and you're kind of capped out right there, we don't even need to raise that too much more. Really just focus on carbohydrates, right? And so the biggest thing I would say is that, one, you will start to get pretty high in calories, right? You will start to get pretty high in calories. And if by chance you get into a pretty good amount of carbohydrates and it starts to get hard to get this food in, then you can add maybe 10 grams of fat. All right, just 10 grams of fat, because fat, for instance, it has more calories. And as you start to get higher in carbohydrates, it gets harder to eat a little bit of that food. If you want to get a little bit more calories up, and you'll know as your weight starts to go down, you're down a tremendous amount of weight, and you're stuffed with carbohydrates. You can raise that fat, maybe 10, maybe another 10. But I typically don't get clients who come to me very often over 90 grams of fat. We like to keep their fats pretty low. We do have certain clients who get up a significant amount of calories, and we have to use fat intake to get their calories up because they're just dropping weight like crazy. But fat intake will hold your weight just a little bit, right? So just keep that in mind. But within this process as well, your goal is to, one, transition the body into carbohydrate metabolism state, raise your calories, and so you can, one, structure yourself for like an actual fat loss phase. So notice like right here, we have the cardio at 0. So you want to start your cardio at 0 when you're raising the food, so that later on in another date, when maybe you do get to, let's say, 3,400 calories, your BMR is up here. And a really big question I get is like, how do you know when you're at the peak? One is body composition. There's a certain look that you have when you get pretty good in calories. I would say for most people, it's around 3,000 to 3,400. We have clients that maybe only get to 28. We have clients that get all the way up to 45. But there is a certain look that you get that you look at your check-in photos, and you might see a little bit of water retention in a sense, kind of start to accrue. Weight maybe starts to go up just a tad. And, that's kind of when we do call it, right? But you have to keep in mind, too, like some of our clients who go through this process lose like 20, 25 pounds. And once they hit that 25-pound mark, maybe their weight does start to climb just a little bit. But the give and take for that is that the more calories we have to work from, we can lower more calories, right? So a lot of guys, what they go wrong, they'll start at 2,000 calories, and they'll try to bring those down to 1,800 calories. They're starving. They feel like crap. They're losing muscle tissue. And there is a certain process to be said when you do get in low calories to mitigate any type of inflammation and adrenal fatigue within your body. But the main thing is that, one, as you start to raise these up each week, we want to keep this cardio at 0, and so that later at a future date, let's say, like I said, we get to 3,600 calories, like very, very client dependent, like I said, BMR is like all the way up here. We kind of get that look. It's like, okay, like, I think that I'm, at the peak of like a metabolic priming phase, and the time frame this is usually 8 to 10 weeks. And so then, what we do when we get you up there is we go, down a little bit, and then we actually add some cardio. Right? So now, instead of starting at 2,000 and going to 1,800, we're starting at 3,600 and going to 34, 10 minutes of cardio, 20 minutes of cardio. And the same thing applies week by week when you're going back down as this, right? A lot of guys, what they do, especially a majority of people do in a cutting phase, is one day they'll do 10 minutes. The next day they don't see any progress, they'll do 30 minutes. The next day they don't see any progress. Maybe they'll just crank this up and then crank this down. And think about actually from a scientific perspective, what your body's actually doing during that period, right? It's like, oh crap, like what's going on? You're cranking cardio, you're lowering calories, so you want to take this very slowly and gradually, even when you're going back into a cutting phase after a metabolic priming phase. And what that'll do is like having that kind of cognitive benefit of understanding, okay, I'm only gonna check in weekly. I'm only gonna adjust things weekly, and that'll help you see the full idea and the full picture of the whole consistency in general. And you just keep going on this rate. And this process is like a very repeatable process I've used with hundreds of our clients. You can go back into a metabolic priming phase, and you can hit your goal physique. You can raise your metabolism and stay at that goal physique. So we use this with literally all of our clients, and I would say it's definitely the most predictable and form of actually losing body fat, because this is actual structure and its actual mechanism, right? So with that being said, in the next video, make sure, first of all, comment, subscribe, and definitely subscribe to my channel here, because I'm going to be posting videos each week kind of explaining this process and helping you guys out on your own fitness journey. And so in the next video, we are going to cover the biggest mistakes that I see people have with actual food tracking and the biggest fat loss mistakes in general. So like I said, if you're new to this channel, subscribe right now, turn on your notifications, and in the next video, we're going to cover that in depth, and so we don't make any mistakes going through this entire process. So, like I said, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.